Maggie Holbrook lost her job for caring too much. She used her own money and company time to fix a broken-hearted boy's bike, a decision her boss didn't hesitate to punish. One minute, she was doing good. The next, she was unemployed, with rent overdue and a daughter relying on her. Maggie's compassion had cost her everything. But just as the sun rose the next day, her phone rang, and what she heard on the other end would shift the course of her life. Hi everyone, welcome to Echo Tales, where true hearts face hard roads. Let's dive in. Life in Fairfield County had never offered much grace to single mums. Maggie knew that truth intimately, especially since losing her husband David 3 years ago. His heart gave out suddenly while he was hauling timber on a cold October morning, leaving behind hospital debts, their 7-year-old daughter, and an emptiness that lingered like a shadow. The life insurance barely covered the essentials, forcing Maggie and Jessica to move from their small rented home to a crumbling 2-bedroom apartment where the roof leaked during storms. The bike repair skills she once shared with David as a pastime became her bread and butter. Pinewood Bicycles took her in not out of pity, but because Vernon Tucker, the red-faced, always swearing owner, knew she was good. "This ain't a charity," he'd say every time she asked for a payroll advance. His words clung to the air like the ever-present scent of oil and rubber. For 3 years, Maggie clocked in first and out last, never raising a fuss about being paid less than her male co-workers, despite outperforming them. She learned to stretch every cent, making stew that fed them for days, altering Jessica's outgrown clothes by hand, and picking up weekend repairs. A coffee can labeled Jessica's college fund sat atop the fridge with exactly $347.23 inside. It wasn't much, but it was something. Then came that blistering June afternoon when Tyler Mitchell arrived at the shop, a scrawny 10-year-old with swollen eyes and a bent-up blue Schwinn, its front wheel crooked like it had kissed a truck bumper. That's pretty much what happened, as Maggie soon learned. "Can you fix it?" he asked, voice trembling. Maggie had just stepped outside for lunch. "My dad gave it to me before he deployed. Mom says we can't buy another." Maggie crouched to inspect it. A rare Schwinn Stingray, retro model, hand-customized. Tyler's name was etched into the handlebars. Decals marked his dad's military unit. A painted army star covered the chain guard. The wheel was trashed, frame warped, bars nearly dangling. Under the seat, in waterproof plastic, was a patch from his father's uniform. "What happened, sweetie?" she asked. Tyler's words tumbled out. "Mr. Wilson's logging truck clipped it when I left it by the driveway. Dad spent months finding this bike. He said it's just like the one he had as a kid, only better. He made it special for me. It's all I have of him until he gets back." Maggie glanced through the window. Tucker was on the phone, not looking. The needed parts weren't in stock. She knew Tucker wouldn't front the cost. "I was supposed to ride it in the 4th of July parade," Tyler added, voice cracking. "Dad might see it if they're not on patrol." Something in Maggie cracked open, the same place that ached when Jessica asked questions David would have answered. Before she could second-guess it, the words were out. "I'll fix it, Tyler. Bring it around after we close at 6. Tyler's face brightened. "Really? How much will it cost?" Maggie thought of her unpaid bills, looming rent, and Jessica's request for new sneakers. She smiled, brushing his hair aside. "Don't worry about that. Just bring the bike." Later that evening, after the shop was locked and Tucker was gone, Maggie opened the back door for Tyler. Under the work lights, she took stock. Front wheel, scrap. Frame, needed pressing. Handlebars, done for. She made a list in her head. I'll need to order parts, she told him. Can you come back Friday afternoon? Tyler hesitated. But the parade's Saturday, he said, anxiety rising. I know, Maggie assured him. It'll be ready. I promise. After he left, she drove to Harlow's Hardware with her list in hand and her heart set. Maggie spent $834.70 of her grocery money on specialty parts Tucker refused to stock. Almost a full day's wages poured into a bike that technically wasn't her problem. But the rare Stingray needed specific components, and she refused to do a patch job. For 3 nights straight, after Tucker left, she stayed late, piece by piece, bringing the Schwinn back to life. She straightened the frame, replaced the wheel, restored the custom engravings, and carefully repainted the Army Star by hand. By Friday afternoon, the bike looked factory fresh, complete with every detail Tyler's dad had lovingly added. When Tyler walked in and saw the restored Stingray, his jaw dropped. It looks even better than before, he gasped, running his hand over the polished paint. I can't wait to tell Dad. His excitement was so loud, neither of them noticed the front door creak open. Then a harsh voice cracked through the room like a whip. What the hell is going on in here? Tucker stood in the doorway, face darkening like a thundercloud. Maggie straightened. Mr. Tucker, I was just using my shop, my parts, and my time for free repairs, he snapped. After I've explicitly told you we don't do charity. I paid for the parts myself, Maggie said, standing her ground. And I worked after hours. Not all of it, Tucker interrupted, eyes narrowed. Security footage shows you fixing that bike during lunch breaks. You lied, Maggie. He turned to Tyler. Take your bike and leave, kid. Tyler looked at Maggie, unsure. She gave him a small nod. Go ahead. He rolled the bike toward the door, pausing only to whisper, Thank you, Miss Holbrook. As the door shut behind him, Tucker's attention snapped back. I've overlooked a lot because you're good at your job. But this? He shook his head. I told you, no exceptions. That boy's father is overseas, Maggie said quietly. The bike was all he had left of him for now. Not my concern, Tucker growled. My concern is staff who follow rules. Clear out your toolbox. You're fired. Maggie hadn't noticed the small crowd that had gathered at the counter, drawn by Tucker's shouting. Among them was a man in his 50s, tall, sun-weathered, wearing a faded denim shirt. He watched everything without a word. As Maggie packed her tools with shaking hands, doing math in her head to stretch her last check, the man stepped forward. Excuse me, he said to Tucker, voice calm but firm. I've been waiting to get a bike chain looked at. Tucker's tone flipped in a flash. Of course, sir. I'll have one of our techs assist. Actually, the man cut in, glancing toward Maggie, I was hoping she could take a look. I just watched her work. She's got a rare gift. Tucker stiffened. Ms. Holbrook no longer works here, he said sharply. That's unfortunate, the man replied. People like her are hard to come by. He offered a business card. Jackson Whitfield. I run Whitfield Manufacturing in Cooperville. Tucker blinked. The name landed like a brick. Whitfield Manufacturing was a major employer in the state. Maybe reconsider, Whitfield suggested evenly. Tucker looked between the card and Maggie, clearly torn. But his pride won out. I'm afraid that's not possible, Mr. Whitfield. Company policy. Whitfield nodded slowly. Policies matter. Then he turned to Maggie. Ms. Holbrook, is it? When you're done here, I'd like a word with you outside. 15 minutes later, Maggie stepped out of Pinewood Bicycles for the last time, toolbox in hand. Whitfield leaned against a gleaming black pickup truck, waiting. "That was something in there," he said as she approached. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," Maggie replied, cheeks flushed. "Don't be. What I saw was someone with real talent and integrity." He looked toward the toolbox. "Need a ride?" Normally, Maggie wouldn't even consider it, but Whitfield's gaze was steady, kind. Besides, dragging a heavy toolbox 5 blocks through June heat didn't sound ideal. "I'd appreciate that," she said. During the short drive, he asked about her experience. She explained how David had taught her everything, how fixing bikes had gone from a shared hobby to her whole world. "And the boy, Tyler?" Whitfield asked. "His dad's serving in the army," Maggie replied. "That bike was his lifeline, a rare retro Stingray just like the one his father had as a kid, but custom built. Took him months to find it and add the personal touches, his name, the decals, the patch under the seat." She paused. "I just couldn't let it end like that." Whitfield was quiet for a beat, then nodded. "You did the right thing." "It's practically irreplaceable," Maggie said. Whitfield nodded thoughtfully as he pulled up to her building. "You know, when I was Tyler's age, I had a Schwinn Stingray just like that. Not all the custom features, but the same model. Used it on my paper route. Earned my first paycheck on that thing." He reached into his pocket and handed her a business card. "If you're looking for work, Ms. Holbrook, give me a call." She took the card, eyes catching the embossed logo. "Jackson Whitfield, CEO." "Thank you, Mr. Whitfield, but I'm not looking for charity." "Neither am I," he replied with a small smile. "I'm looking for skilled people who understand that business is about more than profit margins. Think it over." That night, after Jessica had gone to bed, Maggie sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by overdue bills and uncertainty. Without her job, they had maybe 3 weeks before eviction was on the table. The flickering TV in the corner played the local news quietly, her half-hearted attempt at distraction. And now, a local story gaining attention online. The anchor's voice cut in. Maggie's head lifted. A Fairfield County bicycle mechanic was fired today for repairing a soldier's son's customized bike, free of charge. Cell phone footage filled the screen. Tucker yelling, Maggie calmly explaining the boy's story, and finally Tucker's cold, "Not my problem." "The video's gone viral," the anchor continued. "Viewers have praised the mechanic's compassion and attention to detail, especially the restored limited edition Schwinn visible in the background." Maggie quickly shut the TV off, her cheeks burning. Going viral was the last thing she needed. She needed a new job, not online fame. She went to bed, hoping it would all blow over. But sleep came in waves, broken by anxiety and what-ifs. She just slipped into a deeper sleep when her phone rang, sharp and sudden. The clock read 5:47 a.m., pale morning light creeping through the curtains. "Hello," she answered, voice thick with sleep. "Mulbrook," came the voice of Mrs. Fincher, her neighbor from the first floor. "I'm sorry to wake you, dear, but there's something you should see outside. People are gathering in the parking lot. Nice people, fancy cars. One of them asked if this is where Maggie Holbrook lives." Maggie blinked, fully awake now. "Who are they?" "I'm not sure, but there must be at least a dozen." One gentleman mentioned millionaires. "Millionaires?" Maggie repeated, certain she'd misheard. "Yes, that's what he said. 17 millionaires waiting to speak with you. I thought you'd want to know before Jessica wakes up." "Thank you, Mrs. Fincher. I'll be right down." Maggie threw on jeans and a t-shirt, braided her hair quickly, and peeked into Jessica's room to make sure she was still asleep. Then she hurried downstairs and stopped in her tracks. Luxury vehicles were parked in a neat arc outside the building. SUVs, sedans, pickups, each gleaming in the soft light. Clusters of well-dressed men and women stood quietly talking, as if waiting for something. In the center stood Jackson Whitfield, who smiled when he saw her. "Miss Holbrook," he called, walking toward her. "Hope we didn't wake you too early." "Mr. Whitfield, what is all this?" "These are some friends of mine," he said, gesturing to the group. "We're part of a foundation called Pay It Forward. Every one of us was helped by someone who expected nothing in return. Now we try to do the same." A woman in her 60s stepped forward. "Eleanor Timont," she said warmly. "I own Timont Orchards. 40 years ago, a mechanic fixed my delivery truck. When I couldn't pay, it saved my first season. When Jackson showed us your video, I knew we had to come." One by one, the others introduced themselves, business owners, mentors, executives, each with a story of kindness that had changed their lives. Some had been offered jobs, others loans, or simply a bit of trust at a hard time. "We've pooled our resources for years," Whitfield explained, "to support people who quietly do the right thing, even when it costs them." Maggie swallowed the lump rising in her throat. "I appreciate the gesture, but I'm not looking for a handout," Maggie said quietly. "Good," replied a tall man who had earlier introduced himself as the owner of a regional trucking company. "Because we're not here to give you one. We're here to invest in you." "Invest?" Maggie repeated. Whitfield nodded. "After our talk yesterday, I did some digging. You're not just good with bikes, Miss Holbrook. You're exceptional. Your repair success rate at Pinewood was 17% higher than the industry average. Customers requested you by name." Maggie blinked, stunned. Tucker had never told her any of that. "We have a proposal," Whitfield continued, handing her an envelope. "First, a gift. No strings attached. Enough to cover your living expenses while you consider the second part of our offer." She opened the envelope and froze. Inside was a cashier's check, more money than she'd seen since David's life insurance payment. I can't accept this," she whispered. "You already have," said Eleanor Timont, her voice warm. "The check is made out to you. None of us will take it back. Call it repayment for 3 years of being underpaid and undervalued." Still dazed, Maggie looked up. "And the second part?" Whitfield gestured to a folder another member of the group now held out. "We want to fund a business, a community bicycle shop, right here in Fairfield County. A place where people can get honest repairs at fair prices, where kids can learn mechanical skills, and where no child is turned away because they can't afford it. With you as owner and head mechanic," another added, "we'll provide the startup capital. You bring your talent and your heart." Maggie's voice cracked. "But why? You don't even know me." "We know enough," Whitfield said gently. "That video showed us who you are. A town that would let someone like you go is a town that needs you more than it knows." She looked around at the faces gathered, people who had once struggled, just like her. People who had chosen to return kindness instead of forget it. For the first time since David died, the heaviness on her chest lifted. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "Say you'll think about it," Whitfield said. "Talk to your daughter. Take the day. We'll meet again tomorrow, if you're interested." As the group began to disperse, Maggie spotted a small figure on the steps. Jessica stood there in her pajamas, eyes wide with wonder. "Mom," she called. "What's happening?" Maggie beckoned her over, pulling her close. "Remember what your dad used to say? That kindness matters more than money?" Jessica nodded. "Well, Maggie said, voice steady. Sometimes kindness finds its way back to you. That afternoon, as they sat at the kitchen table, discussing the unbelievable offer, there was a knock at the door. Tyler and his mother stood outside, holding a homemade thank you card and a warm apple pie. "We saw you on the news," Tyler's mother said. "We wanted to thank you properly." "The video of the bike has over 1 million views now," she added. "People are calling Pinewood Bicycles, asking for the mechanic who helped the soldier's son." Maggie smiled, shaking her head. "I bet Mr. Tucker's thrilled about that." Tyler's mom chuckled. "So, what will you do now? I heard some very important people were here this morning." Maggie looked toward Jessica, who was showing Tyler a rough sketch of the future bike shop, complete with a kids' learning corner and a wall honoring military families. "I'm going to build something," Maggie said, her voice full of resolve. "Something David would have been proud of." 1 year later, Hometown Wheels celebrated its grand opening on Main Street. The shop featured a top-tier repair center, a youth apprenticeship program, and a fleet of refurbished bikes available at low or no cost to families in need. Near the entrance, mounted on a wall of honor, hung a single limited edition Schwinn Stingray, restored to perfection, with custom engravings and military decals. It had been donated by Tyler's family after his father returned safely from deployment. Beneath it, a simple plaque read, "For those who believe kindness matters more than money,